jubilant room that night. In Congress, we saw the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Colin Powell, Bert Scowcroft, National Security Advisor, Dick Cheney, Secretary of Defense. A very happy President, George H.W. Bush, and for very good reason. The war had gone exceedingly well. Less than 150 Americans had been killed. Stark contrast to the estimates, the tens of thousands for American casualties against this fourth largest army in the world, Iraq. President Bush was not the only president celebrating the night of the 27th of February, 1991, in Baghdad. President Saddam Hussein was celebrating as well. Because coalition forces, after 100 hours of the ground offensive, had stopped short of Baghdad. Why let Saddam go? In 1994, that question was posed to former Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney. Here's what he had to say.
Do you think the U.S. or UN forces should have moved into Baghdad?
No.
Why not?
Because if we'd gone to Baghdad, we would have been all alone. There wouldn't have been anybody else with us. It would have been a U.S. occupation of Iraq. None of the Arab forces that were willing to fight with us in Kuwait were willing to invade Iraq. Once you got to Iraq and took it over, and took down Saddam Hussein's government, then what are you going to put in its place? That's a very volatile part of the world, and if you take down the central government in Iraq, you can easily end up seeing pieces of Iraq fly off. Part of it, the Syrians would like to have to the west. Part of eastern Iraq, the Iranians would like to claim fought over for 8 years. In the north, you've got the Kurds. And if the Kurds spin loose and join with the Kurds in Turkey, then you threaten the territorial integrity of Turkey. It's a quagmire if you go that far and try to take Iraq. The other thing was casualties. Everyone was impressed with the fact that we were able to do our job with as few casualties as we had. But for the 146 Americans killed in action, and for their families, it wasn't a cheap war. And the question of the president, in terms of whether or not we went on to Baghdad and took additional casualties in an effort to get Saddam Hussein, was how many additional dead Americans is Saddam worth? And our judgment was not very many, and I think we got it right.
A quagmire. A quagmire if we proceeded on to Baghdad, so says the former Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney. Really have nothing to say about that. But obviously, we're going to be returning to Iraq again. So what have we learned? Well, it began with a war launched by Saddam Hussein against his neighbor. His neighbor, in the throes of a revolution, Iran. It was a war that was ineptly managed, arguably on both sides, but especially on the Iraqi side. A war that would drag on for 8 years, result in hundreds of thousands of casualties on both sides of the line. A war that resembled in many ways World War I. A war fought along the border, a war fought between the cities of Baghdad and Tehran, a war that was eventually fought in the Persian Gulf against oil tankers supplying badly needed oil to the rest of the world. A war in which we took a side. Iran was the arch nemesis, Iran that had just recently released the Americans taken hostage at the embassy in Tehran. Therefore, the old maxim is true in this situation: my enemy's enemy is my friend. And so in December of 1983, President Reagan sent his personal envoy, Donald Rumsfeld, to meet with Saddam Hussein and Tariq Aziz. That Iran-Iraq war would be so draining on Iraq that in 1990, Hussein would take drastic measures. Drastic measures was the invasion of Kuwait. $15 billion in debt, ripe, intact oil fields sitting there, and a statement on July 25th by the American ambassador April Glaspie that the United States had no opinion on Arab conflicts like the border dispute with Kuwait. 7 days later, Iraqi tanks pour into Kuwait. 5 days after that, American ground troops are deploying into Saudi Arabia for Operation Desert Shield. 6 months Operation Desert Shield would last because of the fear in America, fear of Vietnam. The Senate voted 52-47 to authorize the use of force. That's a close vote, especially for a war vote. However, Operation Desert Storm will be over in a matter of weeks, with boots on the ground for only 100 hours. But Saddam Hussein remains standing. We're going to return to meet Saddam Hussein again.